The Dancing with Depression podcast is brought to you by CAS-CM, where CM stands for Content Matters, because content brings people together. Today, I've got the pleasure of sitting down with someone whose path is pretty much layered as it is impressive. John Damon is a former D1 football player at Boston College, someone who truly understands what it means to perform at a high level, to be part of something bigger than yourself, and to push through both physical and mental limits. Over the past 3 decades, John has built a name for himself in the fitness space, not just as a personal trainer, but as a designer, a creator of environments that help people grow. His work goes far beyond sets and reps. It's about building spaces and systems that bring out the best in people. I first got a deeper sense of how John thinks listening to a conversation he had with Linda Martindale on the Game Changers podcast. What stood out to me wasn't just what he's done, but how his philosophies and principles have been shaped over time. Through his own experiences, challenges, and growth. They're not just things he teaches, they're things he's lived. And it left me curious, not just about how those principles show up in the lives of the people he works with, but how they've shaped John himself. So today, we're going to explore that. John, warm welcome to the Dancing with Depression podcast. I appreciate you being here.
Hey, I appreciate being here, and thank you for that amazing introduction, Adam.
You are very welcome, and you earned every word of it. So I kind of glossed over, you've accomplished a variety of things, and I mentioned competing with athletics and building businesses and being a father and a husband. And the accomplishments reflect who you are and how you show up. But for those that are meeting you for the first time, what would you say is at your core the foundation of who you are that drives all of that?
Well, I would say what drives me is probably what also makes me like a level 38 Batman. And what that is probably the trauma that I had as a teenager when my sister got in a really bad car accident. And I think that's where it all stems from. And it really, when you do study humanity and you do study excellence, which is what I really love. And, I view my job as I'm someone that's here to maximize my client's potential or the person I'm coaching, whatever it may be. My daughter, if I'm interacting with you, I want to maximize your potential. How do I make you be the best version that you want to be? Not that I want you to be, but that you see for yourself. And I think that all does stem back from your childhood. And for me, we have these archetypes that are part of every single person here, right? And those are warrior, king, the strategist, which is the magician, and then the lover. And the problem with when my sister got in that car accident is that I really went into warrior mode because, we talk a lot, and I've talked with Linda about this. I've talked to a lot of people where the first thing, if you're trying to build culture or a team or just make yourself better, the first thing you need is safety. You need to know that your roof is covered, that you're going to get another meal, that your rent is paid, your car has gas. If not, these stressors can overwhelm you. And once they do break you, it's very hard to get unbroken. So when I say leveling up Batman, the problem is that as you get a stressor, you then figure out the solution. Then hopefully you start recognizing the pattern and start getting able to take advantage of the pattern as opposed to just being affected by it, where you can be less reactive, which is what a warrior is. Warrior is very reactive, to more of a king that can be more proactive and see things coming. And that younger trauma, and then from there, my mother, when I was at school, it wasn't NIL the way it is now. We were unable to work. So not only did my mother need money from me, and it would be at a moment's notice, but if anyone found out that I was working under the table, I could lose my scholarships. So it was like a double whammy where I'm working till 2, 3 in the morning, but at the same time, I have to do it because the person that I care about the most is in need,
Mm.
you know? And as someone, that was raised correctly by this amazing woman, you want to help them. You want to find the solution. And I think that's the best part about a warrior is that they have giant hearts and they have this ability to figure out how to do things. Like they're that's your action taker is generally the warrior. And that will lead to more action, which is generally a good thing as long as you have the great plan. And there's a lot of other preparation that goes along with that to make the warrior successful. But that's where it all stems from.
Awesome. I think we're going to find ourselves bouncing back and forth because that's an incredible foundation when you talk about that safety and allowing yourself to perform. And I'll jump back into that in a second. But when you look at where you are now and where it all stemmed from, were there periods or times that you can think of where maybe that safety didn't show up and you were faced with challenges that you didn't necessarily have the roadmap to navigate?
Yeah, I think that especially when you're young, we always want to give the youth and our children, a little grace. I think the hard part when you're a high achiever and you want to do really well is you don't really give yourself the grace. So, like when I have meditations and I talk to that younger version of myself, he thought he failed because he paid 9 out of 10 of my mother's bills.
Mm.
And I let him know, like, that's unbelievable. Like you were batting 900. You're a Hall of Famer,
Mm.
And give yourself some grace because, there's no one that could have, that could have paid or done what you did. Like you should be so proud of yourself because it also wasn't like these bills were pay online and click a button and they saved your Apple Pay and you just double click right and it's paid. I had to drive 45 minutes, get out of my car, wait in line at the drugstore in my hometown, and then get a receipt because only probably 70% of the times did the money ever go to the electric company or whatever bill you're paying at the drugstore because it was so, it's not as efficient as it is nowadays.
Right. Yeah. And I think when I think about, the conversations and philosophies and things that you built your success on was deep rooted in principles. And as I mentioned, the thing that stood out to me was that safety is the foundation. And you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah.
Can you just dive in a little bit more? Because you gave an example, and I think people will resonate with that very quickly, like a roof over your head and so on. But when you're talking about safety, what specifically are you referring to?
I think it's an all encompassing thing. Like whatever triggers someone to not feel safe, like I can go really deep on this. Like to me, as a 6'4" 4.5", 300-pound man, when I look back over the last month, I have felt safe every second of every minute. There's not 1 minute where I haven't felt safe. But if there was a room of 100 women in here and I asked how many people have not felt safe in the past month, over 90% of the hands would go up. So safety is relative, And so to me, as a leader, as a coach, as a person, and as a man, I need to be aware of that, right? Like I always tell anyone, I need 2 things in order to be successful at life. I need love and I need good information.
Ugh.
So I need to know if you feel safe or not, And then as you get older and you are, again, a world builder, you're creating the world. Like I have the cave and my house and the environment that I work and live in. I've really gone out of my way to create a safe environment. But that comes from, not getting too close to someone when we're speaking. To know that I'm 6'4", 300 pounds and can cause harm to someone if I needed to, like I'm aware of that. So maybe I lower my voice a little bit. Maybe, there's things that I do. Like when I spoke to a group of high schoolers a few months ago, the first thing I did is I brought them lunch and I sat down. So I took my size out of it. And then I bribed them with Chick-fil-A, which is just smart overall. But like this creates, a safety. Then I asked them questions that weren't too hard hitting, but enough to build some rapport.
That's an incredible visual because at 5'5", I have not physically intimidated anybody in my life. Although,
Yeah,
credit to me, my wife, who's just shy of 5 feet, does tell me that I'm tall. So
I love it.
that's a beautiful thing. Where did that understanding come from? Like, and somebody doesn't necessarily come up to you and be like, "Hey, John, you're 6'4", you're an intimidating guy." Like, where did that understanding come from? Because even when you're playing in the sports that you're playing, the other guys are big too, right?
They are. They 100% are. And by the way, now they're even bigger.
Mm.
Like evolution is a real thing. Like if I go into an NFL locker room or if I'm at field level on a NFL game or even a collegiate Division I game, these kids and men are ginormous. Like I use the word freakzilla. Like there are certain people that it's like, man, you are a freakzilla, which is like the ultimate compliment. Like you look like you were born like as a superhero. There's something crazy. Like it is not normal. You are the exception,
Right.
not the rule.
So, in a situation where you are trying to create a comfortable space, are you able to confirm that that space is in fact safe? And what are some things that you see in a safe space that you
Well,
create?
I think it's now you're basing things on who you're dealing with, right? Are we dealing with women over 40? Are we dealing with, girls that are 16? Are we dealing with, 18-year-old boys that are football players? Are we dealing with basketball players? Are we dealing with over 50-year-old men? Like, what are we, because by the way, I think based on who you're dealing with, that level is going to be different, right? Like everything might embarrass or have an effect on my 14-year-old daughter.
Mm-hmm.
That same thing might not affect the 53-year-old guys that I've been friends with for 10 years.
Gotcha.
So I think that like having an environmental awareness and again, the biggest thing like in what I do for a living even, right? Err on the safe side,
Hmm.
right? Don't try to land on the line. Like the same thing if I was training a new person and I think like, oh, that, Adam looks like he can bench press 400 pounds. I don't just start off by like, oh, let's put 400 pounds in the bar and do it 10 times that, we start off with the bar, then I do a warm up weight. And then I ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard was this?
Okay.
And then you got to read the room, because say this 45-year-old woman who's coming in for the first time, she's never worked out before, she's going to have a different level of comfort or safety than someone that I've known for 3 years that it's their first session that works out 3 times a week and that kind of stuff, like, so to me, that's even on a first session, having more talking, you know, get them talking because then you can get to know the person. And as opposed to like, we're going to throw up today, because that's not what I'm about at all. But
Right.
at the same time, that's what they're thinking. Like it's funny because I do, for lack of a better word, of what they called heart perforation training, which is just a very intentional circuit,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the second circuit is always better than the first circuit. And if I was to dumb it down, I would say the reason why is you didn't die on the first circuit.
Gotcha.
So you can give more on the second circuit because you just realize, like, I'm going to make it through it. And that's a big deal mentally. And I think in life, that's also a big deal.
Mm.
If you're driving and people are zigzagging in and out of you, your level of comfort and safety is different if it's just like, la, 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 look at, I'm driving through Disneyland and it's everything does affect, but it's very important to understand your surroundings.
Yeah, environment was definitely a big component in feeling safe. And, you also mentioned something in kind of reference to the squeezer versus pour, where you come across to me as someone that is pouring into
Yeah.
others.
It's all I want to do. I want to be an elevator that only goes up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can see how that resonates just in the strategies that you utilize. And was that because of an experience that you had that you could clearly see a difference between what it felt like to be squeezed versus somebody that was pouring into you?
As having both in my life, I just think that in general, I was born with a more positive outlook in life. But when I played first base, whether I was 9 years old or 19, I was always, more positive. And then as I study this, I realized that 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 way of being and being grateful will generally lead to more good things happening, as opposed to being chicken little and the sky is falling, or this person sucks and that person's not giving me my due. And I was always pretty grateful for what I had, even though we might not have had a lot.
Hmm.
And so that's maybe God given per se, and then developed. And now I will tell you, like, we just had the NFL draft last week,
Yeah.
and you see all the first round picks. So grateful, for the team picking me. I'm grateful to my coaches. I'm grateful to and they're crying. I mean, they're really grateful, and it's beautiful. I mean, and so to me, I believe that yes, I was 1000% poured into by some coaches and squeezed by others, and others might have been, pouring in, but appeared to be squeezing. I think you have kind of the whole thing. I think one of the things that I'm very lucky about at a young age, I had some great coaches,
Mm.
and I think they were both hard, fair, but they were pouring into you. They were doing it because they had high standards,
Yeah.
and high expectations. And so to me, that teaching work ethic and teaching that you can outwork things and that we have a plan and let's execute this plan. And, I had a baseball coach that was my varsity coach, and we only ran. It didn't matter if we won or lost. It was very John Wooden-esque, but we ran if we made more than 3 mental mistakes,
Wow.
throwing to the wrong base, not knowing how many outs there were.
Mm.
And so we could beat a team 17-0 and still be running in the outfield at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And by the way, as a player, I thought that was very fair, and that's one of my favorite coaches of all time, one of my favorite men of all time, Tom Graham. I think that he perhaps is one of the best people that I've ever had. And he was by far one of the hardest people on me. And I knew him since I was, 9 years old.
Hmm. I love the underlying lessons that apply to so much more than sports, right? And the idea of doing it right, not about what the end result was. So it's great that you
Yeah.
won, but did you do it the right way? Because the right way is what's going to give you consistency. And
Oh my gosh. Absolutely.
yeah, so that's awesome.
And that's also like John Wooden, like, right? Like I 1 billion% like love a coach like John Wooden, because to me, someone like that really, right? He asks a great question besides of his pyramid success and all of these national titles, you know, to me, he only cared, did you do the best you could today? Were you a great teammate?
Hmm.
And those were the two real questions that he asked you to ask yourself. Not that he was going to ask you, but like, were you a great teammate today? Which is a great question. Then it's like, did you do your best? Like, were you prepared? Did you then give your full effort? What is that definition? And did you do it?
Hmm.
And I think as a coach, because there are times that people are going to be more talented. There are, there's always someone better, someone bigger, someone faster. So to me, if you can, like, even when I train someone, I call it a PB with Jay, right? A personal best with John. Like, if you go from lifting 5 pounds to 7.5 pounds, you're lifting 50% more weight. Like, that's huge. Like, if you made 50% more money, you would be like, oh my God, like, let's go to Aruba. Like, let's
Right.
go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like to appreciate and celebrate the wins is so important. But at the same time, know what defines your success.
There's a flip side to everything, right? And
Yeah.
so, what do you see, or have you seen specific scenarios where somebody might have had the talent, somebody might have had the drive or ambition, but they didn't have the environment in what we would consider to be helpful for their success, whether it be in business or in athletics? Was there anything that stands out where?
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, I think that I have a million examples of that, right? And I could use myself as an example.
Okay.
I think that when I see the people that have made it to the top of the top, like, whether it's in business or sports, and I've trained some of the best, CEOs in the world, I've trained billionaires, I've trained, professional athletes at the greatest of all time level, right? And when that's the case, they're all very similar where they had a lot of building blocks that were amazing, right? Like they came from a two-parent household, or the one parent was just over the top amazing. You know,
Mhm.
they were taught great lessons and they had a great support system so that they actually had a support system that they could lean on when times were tough. And I think one of the biggest issues with kids or people that don't make it is that they do their worst thinking alone.
Mm.
And so when the times get tough, that person now has made it out to be 10 times worse than it really is. And maybe they quit. Maybe they stop giving effort, whatever it may be. Like most times, like there's an old saying, like it's never over till you quit. And that's true. But what makes people quit is bad support systems, bad information, bad advice,
Mhm.
bad actions.
Oh,
And, and that's what, to me, if you just continue to do what we talked about earlier, right? Do your best, ask questions, ask for help. Like also a lot of these people at the ultimate level, man, the people they've invited on their bus are top shelf. Like they are amazing. And that kind of thing. And like as they get even more successful, the people get more amazing. And you're like, they're not surrounded by yes men, but they are surrounded by people that would die for them. Like these people, whether it's a CEO or an athlete,
mhm.
and then they're also don't think twice about doing what's right. You know what I mean? Like I think that a lot of people sabotage themselves because they know the right thing to do in order to be successful. And they say tomorrow, you know what, I'm gonna start eating healthy tomorrow. I'm gonna do this tomorrow. Like it's always tomorrow. And in reality, when would now be a good time?
Yeah. And
It's like, and then that's the secret of a person at that level is that like they just do the right thing every time.
yeah.
It's like a muscle, and they've maximized this muscle to such a great degree that they're thriving, right? I believe that people are either thriving or surviving. And if you're surviving, acknowledge it and then figure out how to turn that into thriving. And if you're thriving, realize that all you need to be is Adam. You don't need to be super Adam. Like you don't need to take it up a notch. Like let's keep doing what's working at a very awesome level.
Man, what just happened is a lot of things that I've gone through, and the part that just smacked me across the face, you had said thriving or
Yes.
surviving, and you said acknowledge it and then figure out how to thrive. And as a experience of mine, I felt like I was going through and things were good. And then, it's like that Mike Tyson, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, now what? So a lot of structure that you've talked about, systems, environment, and so on. And the thought I keep thinking of is very similar to the spotter, like when you're in a gym, right? They're not lifting the weight for you. Their job, though, is to give you the safety that you need to push as hard as you can and know that it's not going to fall on your face and break your nose.
That you're going to be safe.
Yeah. And probably the strangest connection I'll make, but it is what it is. When I was in college, I was not and have never been a large muscular person by any stretch. But I had always worked out by myself because I got more of a workout taking off the 45-pound plates for my roommates than I did my actual workout. So I was
Sure.
like, I'm just going to be, myself. And then I worked out with them and I was able to lift weights that quite frankly, I'm not breaking any world records, but it blew my mind. I went from maybe a max of 135 to 185, and I weighed 123. So, not to throw my numbers out, it's more
No.
about how I felt comfortable to do something like that. And that I think you get a chance to see and help people with, not just in the gym, but you've taken that into other realms of life, which I think is pretty fascinating.
Well, I love it. I mean, like to me, right? You do a 1.5 times your body weight, like, and that's the thing. Also, when you're working out with your friends, it's fun. My phrasing on that is it's all about the hang, but you're not drinking, so you're actually getting better as a person, right? You're getting physically in better shape. You're getting healthier. You're all types of wins, and it's why I always encourage friends to work out together because it doesn't have to just be about drinking or eating when you're spending time together. And at the same time, there are going to be things that you're good at that they're not good at. And they're going to be like, man, how the heck does Adam do that on those walking lunges or whatever it may be? And you're like, man, I stink at shoulder presses, but like Dave crushes the shoulder press. Like, I got to be like Dave. Like, Dave, how you do it? And then he might have a tip. And all of a sudden, you're like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And we're in the think tank together. And now we're figuring stuff out and we're recognizing patterns. We're now creating patterns. And we're thriving. Now we're thriving on the shoulder press where we were just surviving. And so I think, and you're now better friends with that person, right? They're accountable because, like, we're talking about John Wooden the other minute, and what was one of his biggest things? Be on time.
Be on time.
And when you're working out, nothing is worse than when your workout partner is late, or doesn't show up or whatever, because you're like, hey, man, how long do I wait for this guy?
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so,
Absolutely.
like, you learn that, but then there are people that you see every day, like especially if you work out early in the morning, and you see these people in there at 4, 5, 6 in the morning, and you could be a CEO of a company and be like, shoot, I'd hire that person just because I've seen him 400 days in a row at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
I can work with that.
Which is the perfect kind of lead in, because I'm curious, like, with other coaches or leaders or, even owners, what are some of the small things that they can do to create a environment where they can not get the most out of people, but allow them to be their best? Because I think that's a better way.
Yeah. And I think, like, when you're talking about being an owner, being a coach, being a general manager, being someone in a building of a professional sports, is, again, the safest thing you can do is generally be yourself.
Mm.
I think that that's really important because if you're fake and you're being fake, if you're trying to act like Vince Lombardi, but you're not, you're Pete Carroll, you're like more of a player's coach, or you're trying to be a disciplinarian because I'm the hammer, I'm going to be the hammer,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not the hammer, they're going to see right through it, right? Like these kids, just the way a 3-year-old's like, you're like, I'm going to beat you up to like a 3-year-old, right? I'm like, no, you're not, Mr. John. No, you're not. I'm like, no, I'm going to get you. They're going to see right through it.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Because I'm not going to beat up a 3-year-old. I'm not going to, just for your viewers to know, I do not hit no. But but what I'm saying though is that, like, the same thing, like whether you're an owner or whoever you may be, whenever you're when you're dealing with a team situation, is be yourself. But I think whether you are an owner, coach, whatever it may be, whatever level you're at an organization, is that if you're not the one setting the standard, if you are one of the ones setting the standard, set the highest standard that you could set.
Mm.
If your goal is to win championships. Because not everyone's, again, this is where I always say that curiosity is the opposite of quick judgment. Don't assume, but we want to be curious. So, like, you need to ask every owner, like, what's your number one goal? And you might just assume that it's to win the Lombardi Trophy or the NBA championship. They might be like, I just want to make money, buddy. Like, okay, fantastic. Let's talk about marketing.
Right.
Like, let's go that direction, because to me, you want to help them achieve what they want. And that person might be a person that craves significance. So maybe they do crave money. Maybe they do crave championships. Maybe they just crave to be, they want to have all the glory. They might be the one that says, like, I just want the credit. Whatever it is, me, you know? And if you get them to say that, you're like, wow, that's great information.
I like that a lot because when you're talking about a team or a corporation, you've got different people with different, what could appear to be different individual goals. But
Sure.
you can put those pieces together to work together so that everybody gets what it is that they're out for. Because even with the example you gave, maybe it's an athlete that just wants money. Well, guess what? Helps you make money, not just now, but later on, is yes, a brand, but also winning. Being able to be known for the championship forever is something that you can cash in on. And that might not be what the other guy wants. Maybe he just wants to win. And so, very
Yeah, he might just
interesting.
want to buy his mother a house.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know what I
That,
mean? Like, I think that that's really important to know. And like, if you're going to talk about like someone that wants to get paid the most, whether you're Bill Russell, who won 11 championships, Larry Bird, who won 3, Mike Eruzione, who was the captain of the 1980 Olympic hockey team. I mean, Bill Russell just passed away a few years ago, but like he would hold up his hands and with all of his rings on him, and he'd be like, do you know why I'm here today? It was because I got these. And he had this contagious laugh. Right? He like had that like he was like that dog from the cartoon when we were younger.
yep.
But, and he's like, because I got these. I know how to win. I'm going to tell you guys how I do it.
Hmm.
And like Mike Eruzione is still one of the highest paid public speakers on the circuit because of being the captain of the 1980 Olympic hockey team.
Mm.
Right. And I think people are short sighted. Like, it's like, to me, I live in Charlotte. I love if I can ever help recruit someone to move to Charlotte. Easy living. People love their kids, great schools, great sports teams, starting to get better restaurants. Like I can build on that, like, and the same thing. If I was trying to tell a guy that's thinking about coming either here or to Miami, it's like, what's more important to you? Do you want nightlife or do you want to be able to invest your money in a house that you're not going to have to spend $20 million to buy a nice house?
Yeah.
Like standard of living. And, like there's things like you talk to people and you figure it out. Like, is it a match or is it not a match? And if you're a culture builder, if you are building a team or you own a team or any of that stuff, you got to fill your bus with people that A, understand your vision, and B, are willing to do what it takes to hold up the standards. And like people don't understand, like we use the word like enthusiasm, but people are not as enthusiastic as they need to be most of the time. Like people are like, hey, Adam, what do you want for a coffee today? God, it's great to see you. But if someone did that, you're like, man, I love that guy. That guy's awesome. If it's genuine, right?
Sure.
It's like,
Sure.
man, where's that guy get his energy? I am going to start drinking coffee because that's obviously what this guy has got going on. And I want more of that in my life.
Absolutely. And, you've referenced it several times where, you are drawn to people that have a positive outlook or they're genuine. Like
Yeah,
doesn't mean that they haven't gone through stuff because I feel like everybody's gone through stuff. But there's another kind of philosophy that, I was looking up, kind of doing a little bit of who is John Damon? And one of the things was isolation breeds excuses. And this to me, again, I try not to force things as far as
sure.
connection, but this one was big for me, right? Because up until 36 years of age, I had everything fine and good as far as one could want. And then I was told that something was going on in my body that I was depressed, right? So,
Sure.
whatever that is. But the isolation part is where I think people really hurt themselves. And you alluded to it before, which is the thoughts in your head and what
Yeah,
you're doing and saying when you're alone. And so it was eye-opening. I'm lucky enough to have a wife, Bobby, who encourages me to do what appear to many as simple things, but the value that they bring are important. And when you're talking about where people are now, many of them have had something that has happened. You alluded to something. And without trying to stretch too far, I just think it's too beautiful to not at least mention. And that is, you talk about a scenario where you would say to yourself, I can do hard things.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? And do you mind sharing that?
Well, I think that what you're saying is first of all, thank you for sharing what you were just talking about. And, I think that that's one of the things that a lot of people get wrong. And truth is that vulnerability is strength. And, when you come to the situation of I can do hard things, I think a lot of times that's when God or whoever it may be is throwing hard things at you. And then you look back when you're older and you're like, man, I survived 100% of the hard things that I went through.
Mm.
But when you were going through them, you're pulling your hair out. You're going like, God, like what's going on? Why is this happening to me? You can say many, many things, and I think the best example I know is some of the people that I really care about are ex-Navy SEALs.
Mm.
And they talk about the people that quit are usually more athletically talented than them. They're probably mentally tougher than them. They might be better at everything than they are. But they just all knew that they were going to take a hot shower again. So when they're rolling around and they're being, sprayed with a fire hose or going, in the cold water with their sugar cookie and, they got the sand and like it just and they've been up for 40 hours and they have to go ring a bell, right? There's something they actually have to do, but it's the people that ring the bell. They didn't remember that they're going to take another hot shower, because the thing is like a lot of us, you quit right before the breakthrough was going to happen,
Mm.
and, like I said earlier, like it's not over till you quit. And that's true. Like, I don't care if you're like just started painting, just started playing the guitar, you know, just don't quit until you truly know like that is not what you want to do anymore. Like whether you're a kid and you now have a bad coach, so you want to quit soccer or baseball, whatever it is you're playing. It's like, do you still love the sport? Like, let's get you on another team. Let's just go out with your friends and play some baseball. But because what you don't realize is that quitting is forever. Like like all of a sudden you're going to play your last game. It's going to be that like people don't realize that generally like only 5% of people over the age of 30 ever run the fastest they could ever run again. It's like like these statistics are crazy, and not saying that they're true or not true, but it has a chance of being true, right? Like let's up it and we'll times it by 4 and just say it's 20% of people never sprint at full speed once they hit 30 years old. Like it's a crazy number to say like I'm never going to run as fast as I could ever again.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's like that to me, like that hits home because people just stop doing things that they might have even enjoyed just because they got so into the cycle of what they do every day.
Mm.
And they might like that old commercial where it's like a kid saying like, I'm going to be middle management. And like that, like, right. The reason why that hits home is because nobody says that
Right.
when they're that age. Right.
Yeah.
But then that new commercial could be like, I'm going to sit at home and sit on the couch for 8 hours straight and binge watch an entire series on Netflix. Like in terms of that kind of stuff, like this is what people now do as they get older. And I'm not judging it. Again, I'm not here to judge anyone. I don't want anyone to judge me. But like, what is your goal? And the thing is that if you don't have any goals, then you are a tumbleweed. Like you're just going where the wind takes you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's totally okay if you want to be a tumbleweed. But at the same time, understand the person that you are and the person that you want to be. And just try to try to get that 1% better every day. And, to me, whether you are depressed, whether you are not feeling confident about a decision, talk to your board of directors. Like you might be doing better than you think.
Mm.
Like I know, when I deal with my 14-year-old daughter, she's in some advanced geometry or whatever. And to me, one of the things that I know works for her is that if it's a problem, just is there one part of the problem that you know how to do? Find the angle, find the air, whatever it may be. let's just, what's the angle? Like, whatever it is, let's just start with what we know. And then maybe figuring out what you don't know might come. And I think that that's a huge deal.
John, that is an incredible deal. Again, it resonates with a lot of my personal experiences, and I think a lot of people's. And the ability to isolate something and make progress, like you said, with the calculations and get something right and then build off of that.
Yeah.
It's not about perfection. And anybody who is putting their energy into perfection, I don't think you really get an opportunity to appreciate, what you've done along the way because you're always seeking more. And I think that we have to sometimes take a step back, evaluate. It doesn't mean that you've hit the goal that you want to hit, but you are in the process and you have to celebrate wins along the way.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, to me, one of the guys I think is one of the best coaches in the business, Coach Dave Canales, right? One of his big things is like, you got to celebrate. Like, great teammates celebrate one another.
Yeah.
They celebrate that. Like, I think we do. Like, a lot of times as we get older, we just want to check boxes. This is done. This is on to the next box. Check the box. On to the next box. Check the box. Right. And you don't realize that, like, you're just a grind machine, right? Which I can grind with the best of them, but it's not the way to do it. I can now look back and tell you that that is not the way. Like, you hit on two things earlier that you were just talking about. And perfection is actually the lowest standard because it can't be achieved.
Mm.
Right? It's truly the lowest standard. As someone that loves excellence, like, I love excellence, all about excellence. I want excellence for appetizer, main meal, dessert, after dinner drink. I want excellence. I love it. I want to be around it. I want to soak in it. Whatever I can do that regarding excellence, I want to be part of that. The second part is that you said as part of perfection, which can be part of it, doesn't have to be, but it can be, is comparison. If you're comparing yourself to anyone else, you're going to lose joy. There's no better loss of joy or thief of joy than comparison, right? So that's why when John Wooden's talking about, can you look in the mirror and say, like, you did the best you could, that kind of aspect. To me, that's the winning because, here I am. I just built an incredible backyard and this, that. It's got a cold tub, hot tub, fire, TV, bar, turf for pushing sleds, incredible deck. Oh my, like, the whole thing, it's my dream come true. But if I said then, you know what, I want to compare it to the person that has the best deck in the world, man, I'm going to lose all my joy. I'm like, man, my deck sucks.
Yeah.
Right. And I go and I sit out in that hot tub or in the pool and I'm just like, man, I'm so grateful, that I was blessed to be able to afford this. I'm so grateful that I built it and it's better than I even drew up. And I knew it was going to be amazing. This is even more amazing. It's safe. It has 8-foot walls. Every component to it was very intentional.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if I compared it to someone else's, I might hate it. Be like, you know what? This thing sucks. I'm never coming out here ever again.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful when you are comparing yourself to other people because it will steal your joy because there is always someone that has more money. There is,
Yeah.
someone that is taller, better looking, tanner, whatever it may be that you want. There's going to be probably someone, they have a better beard they got a pinker hat. I don't know. But like, that's the whole thing that you got 2 dogs, they got 3 dogs.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, you really have to be aware of what you want and what you have cultivated for yourself.
Yeah.
And really value the people that are in your life that are rooting for you. Like, the biggest secret in life is that there's plenty of abundance. Like, I like black t-shirts, you like orange polos.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad because I want whoever makes orange polos to stay in business. Because that way you always get what you love. I want black t-shirts to stay in business because that's what I love.
Yeah.
And it's like there's enough to go around for all of us. And what you love, you might want a Lamborghini Aventador, and I like Mercedes, S63 AMGs. We don't have to like all the same things, but we should be able to appreciate and want the people in our lives to get what their dreams are.
For sure. For sure. And to be clear, like the cave, because I was looking at it, that's in your house, correct?
It
The
is.
gym? And for those that want to take a look at just an absolute beautiful space, go to johndamon.com and look at this because it is just amazing. Where did that specifically, the cave, come from?
I've been doing this a long time. So I've been working in the fitness industry or certified as a trainer since 1991. And the cave came from one of my best friends, one of my workout partners actually had an incredible gym. I think it was called the Compound that was at his house in Beverly Hills, Gunnar Peterson. And he trained people out of like, I guess it would be his secondary house, like his,
Yep.
his, I forget what the term for it is now, but AVP or whatever the heck it's called. But I'm sure his was like 4 or 5,000 square feet, but it's like a garage, right? It's like a guest house is
Hmm.
really what it was. It was a guest house,
Okay.
right? And so then I asked him how he liked it. There's another guy that trains a lot of famous people named Harley Pasternak. He had trained out of his house, and then he actually bought another house right near this other house. And so he trained people out of one house, lived in another house. And so, because I'm like, gosh, I think that would be the best of both worlds. So when we looked at houses in Charlotte, I wanted to get a house that had very high ceilings. Again, I knew what I wanted,
Hmm.
that had enough square footage that had a separate entrance. And the house that we built, I guess, bought and rebuilt it. I guess we renovated it. Had both of those things.
Awesome.
So it has close to over 2,000 square feet in the basement. It had its own door, so people don't have to walk through my house to get there because that would make you not feel safe. That's weird,
Right.
right? So like, they walk down a driveway, they take a left turn at Albuquerque, and all of a sudden they walk up this beautiful deck and into this amazing gym. Now, so where that came from, when we moved here, again, having spent 14 years in Los Angeles, Beverly Hills, Brentwood, and some nice areas, I'm like, shoot, who's my target audience? You know, how do I make them feel safe? And then from there, what am I trying to accomplish with this? So I wanted it to be a showcase for what I can do as a builder, but I also was going to be the place that I worked out. At first, I was really not going to train anyone here. That was not part of the plan. It was really going to just be where I worked out with like my best friend or my future best friend that I hadn't even met yet. But like, that's what I wanted. And the first thing we did is take a sledgehammer to the stairs
Mm.
because I just needed action. It was literally, I just had a buddy of mine that's a builder come over and we took a sledgehammer. He said, what are you doing? I go, project just started, and then we started finding people to do things,
Mm.
and it worked, like, but the first thing I did, I made a massive mistake because it wasn't being true to myself. Just to get started, I took off all the baseboards and all the moldings and I painted it this gloss white. And by the way, I do not hate that. If my equipment was gloss white and I was trying to do a Superman Fortress of Solitude, there's many ways you can make that work. But to me, I did it and then I'm like, oh, I hate this.
Mm.
Like, this is so me settling to be something or something that I am not. And then I'm looking for inspiration. So I'm looking at Architectural Digest. I'm looking at cool cars. I'm looking at things. And I just came across a picture where it had like cement walls and a black, I guess it's like an urn pot, planter. And I'm like, that's it. Boom. And then I knew exactly what I was going to do. And so then it was based on Dante's Inferno. Grays are purgatory, blacks are hell, whites are heaven.
Mm.
Then we have the cave. And then that literally, it took a little time to put it together, but I knew this was going to be a 5-person steam room. I knew this was going to be a cold tub, Normatec, red light, PMF room. I knew this was going to be the pain cave, which is like where you do cardio or where you got to put in the hard work. Not that you don't put hard work in the other room, the purgatory room, but you are going to put some work in. And in the black rooms, you're going to have to tell yourself, I can do hard things.
Mm.
You might only be in there for 2 minutes.
Mm.
But man, it might not be easy, and then we got equipment on on the deck that's been thrown out of the nightclub. It's like, oh, I hate that rowing machine. Oh, that assault bike. Oh man, get that the hell out of here. I don't even want to see that. So people then feel safer when they know they're walking outside. They're like, oh, it's going to be go time. Like, shoot. Or there might be not safe, right? Like they know when they leave, like, oh, like we're going to go do something hard,
That's awesome.
And so like it's all intentional, but
Mhm.
it's an important thing. But every detail has been thought about in that gym, whether it's where the equipment is, that the dumbbells aren't drunk and turned sideways, like they're all facing the up and down so you can read them. And,
Awesome.
everything has a function, right? But at the same time, there is a design aspect to it.
There's definitely that's noticeable and appreciated because it is a thing of beauty, and I love the fact that there is something called the pain cave because
Yeah.
that's just great. So I've had a chance, obviously, to ask you a variety of questions, and I always like to at least give the opportunity. You don't have to, but if there's a question that you have for me, this is an opportunity to fire away.
Sure. Now, to me, again, like that's all part of love and connection, right? We want to have people pour into us. And part of that is finding out who they are. And you might not know who the person is that you're dealing with. Or I've had this great opportunity. I'm so grateful for you to have me on your podcast. But the first question that I would ask you is, you said that you were, diagnosed with depression and you have this amazing wife that has seen you through that. Like, what were some of the steps that you took to acknowledge that this was true? And then what were some of the things that you thought were super important that really helped you deal with it and come out of it?
It's a great question. I think the thing for me was, I had things with work that kind of brought it to the surface. And the hardest part for me in the beginning was trying to understand where this came from because my understanding of depression was something related to an ongoing traumatic experience or something very traumatic over a period of time. And I wasn't in my thought process thinking that I had experienced that. And so I wasn't really sure where it was coming from. When I learned a little bit more and started to look back and say, okay, I did experience some trauma. A lot of people experienced it, the loss of someone or, financial situations, just racism, whatever the case may be, it just, to me, it wasn't to the level that I thought it needed to be in order to experience what I was experiencing. What helped me, really, really helped me, was connection and knowing that I wasn't alone because I felt incredibly isolated. I felt alone and I felt like I was letting specifically my wife down because she didn't sign up for what I was giving. And that was difficult. She also was a big part of learning and educating. And I utilize it as I played sports. I didn't play at a very high level, but I was very competitive and I loved sports. I loved a lot of things about sports, the individual part of it and getting better, the team part of it, and so on. But I remember a coach saying, the best are the best at the basics. They just are incredible. Like, yeah, they can do all of these cool things, but if you were to, ask one of the best athletes, they've probably done that motion thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of times, right?
Yeah, Albert
And
Einstein, right? Repetition is genius.
yes. Yep. And so my Bobby taught me that with regards to my mental health, which is go back to the basics, go outside, get sunshine. Not about exercise or sports and athletics. It's about movement. Get your body doing things that you haven't been doing because you've been in your own head. It's about getting sleep. It's about not diet, but about nutrition and all of these things that I experienced younger, but I didn't truly understand their value and the intrinsic value. I joke about it saying I used to work out to make little muscles that I could look at when I walked by the mirror, right? But I didn't realize how much of a positive influence it had on my mental health and how it was allowing me to do things that I didn't realize I needed to do. And so it was going back to the basics and understanding, like I said, A, I didn't do anything wrong. B, I wasn't the only one. And C, there was a way to move forward. And that's where I think the idea in the podcast helped because I knew if it was going to help me, that there were other people that could benefit from it too. And I wanted to not only share what I experienced, but a big thing for me has always been, okay, now, so what are we going to do about it? Right? Because if you're saying something, but you're not trying to move it forward or get better, then you're just complaining, in my opinion. And so I didn't
Sure.
want to just complain. I wanted to move things forward. And I knew through my journey that there were incredible people that had things to say that could help. They just didn't know it. And
Yeah.
so I would ask them to have a conversation with me. And that's what I continue to do is I want to connect people. I want to educate people and I want to give them the space that they need to grow and be the best that they can. And really why it all resonated when I listened to your conversation is I really felt that safety was a major component for me to be able to share. Some folks have said, vulnerable. You mentioned it, vulnerability, right?
Yeah.
I've never been so comfortable in my skin in my life, right? And so that coupled with an opportunity is why we're here today and hopefully why we continue to move forward and create more safe spaces for people. And that can be outside of just mental health. And I've said this to as anybody who will listen, right? This doesn't have to be just about anxiety and depression. This is about life. This is about, so much more.
To me, if you can make someone's day for less than $10, you should do it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
even that kind word to the person working at Starbucks or the person you see every day, whether it's your mailman or your neighbor or whatever it may be, that might be the only time they talk to someone that whole day,
Yeah.
and you just don't know the battles that people are fighting.
Yeah.
And if you can lessen that battle just for a few seconds, it might mean the world to someone.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm notorious for isolating
we know that's true.
for isolating my audience. If you get into an elevator with me, you're gonna get a compliment. It's
Love it.
going to happen, and you have to accept it. And a lot of people are good at it. There are some folks that get thrown off, but to your point, like you made their day, and
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing. It's an absolute.
And even to me, homeless people,
Mm-hmm.
they might all truly do want some money or a sandwich or whatever it is they want. But a lot of times they just want to be viewed as a human being.
Yeah.
Just asking, how's your day going? Besides needing $10, how's your day going? What's your name? Hey, I'm rooting for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That kind of thing. Not running away because you're scared. Again, it's good to be 6'4.5", 300. I know that I'm maybe safer than some. So I do take that into account. But to me, loving and connecting with people is never going to be a bad decision. To me, that's the number one need that humans have besides certainty, which is another version of safety. That is one. Now, I do have one more question for you.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, do you think?
No, this is going to be a good one, Adam, because I know you have an answer to it.
Okay. All right.
Right. Your podcast is called Dancing with Depression.
Yes.
Now, one of the things I truly believe is true for almost every person is that everyone has a go-to dance move, right? Like mine's the figure eight because I am so big. So I'll live with my hands going in an affinity symbol, right? A figure eight.
Yep.
Right. I can come out of it. I can do some really good things out of the figure eight. So what is your go-to dance move?
I knew I should not have let you ask this question.
See, I've gone too far.
No. I feel like I will out of pure respect, because it is a great question, by the way. So I am not the lead when I dance. My wife, Bobby, is the dancer. And so whatever she's doing, I try to mimic. I will, however, say, and I don't want to ever be, I'll do it. I'll do the Running Man. I'll do the Running
Okay.
Man. I'll
It's a great one.
Now hold on, because I want to be clear. Going on 50. So the real Running Man, not this viral, weird version of the Running Man, the original Running Man.
The OG Running Man.
Yes. And I will add one more. If I am in certain company, we will bust out the Kid and Play dance.
Oh, tap the foot, baby.
Got it.
I'm with you.
You got it. So.
Eraserhead. I get it.
Yes.
Both, by the way, both classics.
Thank you.
These are excellent choices, Adam.
I feel pretty good about them. So
yeah, you should.
Yeah.
These are solid choices.
Yeah. Well, now what's going to end up happening is, the requests, somebody sees me, they're going to be like, show me what you got. Show me the move.
Yeah, just stretch first, Adam. You are over 50, so
good call.
Make sure we warm up a little bit, or let them know, like, hey, I gotta have to warm up. So maybe come back in 20 minutes, and
there you go.
you can't get hurt.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So before you come up with any more great questions,
yes,
I want to say, John, thank you, not just for showing up, but for sharing and pouring. A lot of pouring. Great stuff. And folks that are interested, as I mentioned, outside of, johndamon.com, are there any other spaces and places that people can find you and see what it is that you're working on and connect if in fact
on Instagram it's at John Damon, and also on TikTok I think it's at the John Damon, and from there, like I said, my email is simple. It's damon@johndamon.com. Like, please ask away if you have a question, and if I block you, it's for a good reason. So just know, just know in advance. That's what I had to do to Linda. No, I'm just kidding. No, like I love Linda, but like in terms of that, like I think that's what we're here for. We're here to pour into people, and we're here to be vessels and help everyone be the best that they can be. I know I'm very grateful for you. I thank you for having me on today. And I just think the world of you. I'm so glad that I got the chance to be on this and get to meet you in person. And it's nice to put the name to the face, or the face to the name. And I really appreciate Scott and Eric for setting this up. And
agree. Yeah.
Like I said, I hope you have an incredible rest of the day. And I hope that our paths cross again very soon.
I wish you the same. And I absolutely hope that happens as well. Thank you so much, John. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adam. Much appreciated.
Safety isn't something extra we earn once things fall into place. It's part of what everything else is built on. It's what allows us to open up, to push ourselves, and to grow into who we're capable of becoming. And as John shared, safety looks different for everyone, but the responsibility to recognize it, create it, and protect it, that belongs to each of us. In our environments, in our relationships, and just as importantly, with ourselves. What stood out to me is how these same principles showed up in different arenas. In John's world, safety is what allows you to max out, to take the weight off the rack and trust you can handle it. The space is the environment, the gym, the field, the people around you. And growth shows up in strength, in performance, in progress. In my own life, I've learned it's not that different. When I've felt safe, really safe, it's allowed me to open up, to be honest, to not feel like I had to carry everything on my own. And maybe that shows up in your life in a different way, but the principle holds. Safety creates the space, and that space gives growth a chance. Growth doesn't have to be dramatic. Sometimes it's going from not right now to I'll give it a shot, from this keeps happening to maybe this time can be different. Not loud, not always obvious, but real. So wherever you are right now, consider what safety looks like for you and what kind of space you may need to create. Because when those are in place, you give yourself the opportunity to move forward. And remember, when it comes to your safety, take the lead. Ever heard the saying, it takes a village to raise a child? Well, same applies here. It takes an awesome audience like you to help get this message in front of someone who needs to hear they're not alone. That's why I ask for your continued support. Whether you like, share, follow, or leave a review, and if so inclined, can donate, it all helps more than you know. If something resonated, pass it along. You never know who needs it. Want to connect? Email me anytime, dancingwithdepression@yahoo.com. And remember, when it comes to depression, take the lead. Content and safety notice. Dancing with Depression may include discussions of suicide, self-harm, trauma, and emotional distress. Listeners' discretion advised. This podcast shares personal experiences and is not a substitute for professional mental health care. If you need immediate support, call or text 988, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. For non-crisis help and resources, contact NAMI at 1-800-950-6264.